Good afternoon, everyone. David Dubine here. Thank you for spending your valuable time with the Adapt 2030 channel. California targeting private property, private wells now. You have to report how much you're using, plus you have to pay a $300 fee for your private well on your private land, which there's no support from the state. Texas, no more EV charging stations during the summer. Too much pull on the grid. Drop you back in the past. London Electrobus charging station. European nations asked to cut 15% of natural gas. 6 countries say no way. Images of Holland in our thoughts as they fight battles for us against fill in the blank. And we're going to pull you back into the late 1800s here. London, the Electrobus. That is a battery in the front compartment. We really need to visit the past to see what the future entails. So when we look at the Electrobus, there's a charging and power station in London more than 120 years ago. So I'm kind of wondering where the tech innovations were over the last 120 years when EV didn't really pop back on the radar until about 10 or 15 years ago. And now it's really in your face on buy the $60,000 or $80,000 car, but the 120 years of development, that kind of got swept under the rug in the conversation / narrative. And plan carefully because blackouts and drawdowns on the grid because it is so hot. People use more air conditioning. So in Texas, they said there's so much air conditioning being used, EV charging stations will not be operating until further notice. I guess you can charge from your house, but that will take you 25 times more power to charge than your refrigerator runs. Check out the facts. Also, other inconveniences sweeping through continents. European nations are asked to cut their use of natural gas 15% until next spring. Really? Okay. No, not okay, because Greece and Spain quickly rejected that, said, get out of here. Portugal jumps on the bandwagon, that 15% proposed cut. Government of Spain just comes out and says, whatever happens, Spanish families will not suffer gas or electricity cuts in their homes. We're going to defend the position of Spanish industries, guaranteeing security of supply. Didn't take long after that melee where Italy, Poland, and Hungary also jumped in and said, no, 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 no. We're going to keep our supplies flowing too. So you got 6 of the Eurozone neighbors, friendly chums. And the initial proposal, 8 months. But you know how that is, carrot and stick. 8 months will turn into how many months to flatten the gas supply? I mean, governments are going to topple if they continue to remove energy out of the populace and let food prices run and cut the supply chains of food. You've seen this through history. It's nothing new. It is a repeat of history. Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan, warning economic hurricane. The worst is yet to come for Americans. Larry Summers forecast recession ahead, millions of layoffs, big tech companies like Tesla slashing 10% of the workforce. Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs warning market another 20% to fall. Recession, Bloomberg Intelligence forecasting $2,500 gold by the end of the year. Wells Fargo sees gold hitting record highs in 2022. Long-term forecast, gold above 5,000. That's an economic collapse. Call the Patriot Gold Group today before it's too late. Patriot Gold Group has the no fee for life IRA where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold and silver, and you may be eligible for the no fee for life IRA on qualifying rollovers. Call 1-800-356-4470 for a free investor guide today. And with the knowledge that Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated IRA gold dealer from 2016 to present, click on that link in the description box below. And now on with the video. And of course, I'm trying to bring you the bizarro articles that make no sense except for a cash grab. Perfect example right here. California targets private property with well water fees. So I had to dig into several articles because I really wanted to understand this myself, just from an individual point of view here. So California is sicking the Environmental Protection Agency on property owners who have private water wells on their land, and now going to make them pay based on how much water volume they use. But not on private land, on a private well, drilled with your own money. So this article is just insane the way it's written here. In addition to the pumping volumes, you have to self-report the location of the well, the place of the well, the purpose of the well, and the groundwater usage from that well. You have to give individual groundwater extraction reports, not until February 1st, but you need to keep records from now until then, and then back pay that pumping volume between the months included up until the February 1st report, or whenever you get the letter. So they're sending out those letters express mail. So on the National Conference of State Legislatures, they're talking about private water wells here. 42 million people out of the, 350 million in the United States, about 10%, we'll just round it off, use wells for the drinking water, meaning no meters on that, primarily from private wells. And if you dig a little further into that, they also include California, the new law, AB 508, which expands the definition of a domestic water well. Here's where it gets really interesting. California reduced the amount of water or number of people to include one individual residence that's not on a public system that has no more than 4 service connections. Ill-defined on service connection. Is that me tapping into it, or is that a faucet coming into my house? Regardless, when we look back at the national definition of it, national definitions of unregulated water systems defined as having less than 15 service connections or serving less than 25 people. Safe Drinking Water Act governs this. Now notice how they lowered the numbers there to include every possible household that's using well water. An individual residence, that's every one. Whereas if you swing over and take a look at the 15-meter connections and 25 people, it's very different. So what you're looking at is a cash grab here, moving into these new agendas for the end of the decade that are going to require you to pay for what was formerly a free resource. Water out of a well that you drilled with your own money, you now have to pay for. In California, so continuing on the article here about the private water fees, they're sending out these letters. Like I say, it's going out express mail because as soon as you get receipt of this letter, you have to start tallying your own usage. You have to do it yourself. There's no reporting forms. The government's not coming to service your well if it breaks down. You're 100% responsible for the upkeep, the pumping, the maintenance, the repair, the new well pump or casings, whatever happens. It's 100% your finance going into the well, but now they want you to pay for it. You have to pay a $300 annual fee for each well. And you're going to be required by law to send that monthly usage fee. I love how somebody calls it out as it is. The government provides no service, no support, no product, doesn't even do the billing. You have to keep your own spreadsheet. That's all on the citizens. All the government does is cash your check. So I wonder how they're going to enforce this, really, because it all came back down to, off an NBC News article here. Again, they always have some different twist on it to try to get you to accept it. Well, if we don't measure groundwater usage, we can't manage it. In many cases, we don't even know how much is being pumped and by whom. None of your business. It's a private well on private property. None of your business. Keep the state out of it. Why do they need to come and then see everybody's well? Eventually, they're going to start counting your chickens as well. How many lawn clippings you had that you used as nitrogen fertilizer to put back on your plants? Oh, you're going to have to pay a nitrogen fertilizer fee then? Keep your own records because you're using your own grass clippings for fertilizer? This is where it's coming to. It is, really. You're going to pay for everything natural by 2030. It's irresponsible that we don't say everybody's got to measure how much we're pumping and reporting. Yeah, everybody. And the not on my land, I agree with that. The reluctance of private well owners to grant permission to monitoring entities. Get off my private property. But of course, still have the water police. And it turns out groundwater isn't just about water supplies, farming, and who owns that. Yes, the landowner owns the water rights under the land you own. That's who owns it. And I love how in the middle of the paragraph there says private landowners feel like it's their own property right. And why should they have to report it out? And then somebody from the state chimes in with the groundwater basin's a commonly held resource. And for the statement to say, well, the private landowners think that they have rights to the water rights under their land. How dare they? Well, it's in the letter of the law that you retain the mineral rights and water rights under the piece of property that you bought, depending on which state you're in. So for somebody to come out and conflict with the law and then try to put their own interpretation on it, that person needs to be fired and removed to somebody who actually understands the law and will respect the rights given after you purchase property. It's really kind of simple like that. And here's a little snippet for you. Read between the lines on this. 7% of waterborne disease outbreaks nationally are associated with private unregulated wells. So they're saying, all right, anytime gastrointestinal, somebody ends up in the emergency room, whatever, 7% of that is because of well water that's been contaminated. Wisconsin itself, 47% of these wells exceeded at least one water-based quality standard. Who's responsible for that at the point when your aquifer has been contaminated by industry? They leave that out. That's a real hard question that nobody wants to tackle. Industrial contaminants in a private water source under private land. Who's going to pay for that? They just put it as a statistic. Oh, the water's dirty, we need to regulate it. What about the companies kind of up the stream there? Don't talk about them. And if you do want to track the dry well reporting system, I'll link that in the description box below. And with all the madness in the world, it's nice to just take a break and let nature decompress your mind. And if you're looking for storable foods to ride out some of the chaos, My Patriot Supply and Adapt 2030, the 3-month emergency food supply, save $150. Use that link in the description box below. It's a great way to support the channel so I can continue to bring you research like this. And there's an all-out push to take away anything natural from us that's free, whether it be the land, the water, the access to forests, the access to foraging. Anything that you would look at in terms of what was free is now going to be regulated and metered. Moving forward, from this year forward, they are pushing it. And when I say they, I am talking about the United Nations, World Economic Forum, Bank for International Settlements, the World Bank, IMF, and those entities related to it, especially using the EPA, and different contaminants as excuses why everything needs to be monitored and why you have to pay for once formerly free things, a gift from God. This is a non-human entity that's trying to control moving forward. It's time to take our planet back.